Can you send the pictures you took
Yeah, I will.
yesterday? I give you my number.
Yeah.
905. Did you enjoy yesterday?
Oh, wonderful. Very nice. Wait,
905.
wait. I'll just write it down.
It's Carmen. Carmen, Carmen. Hemraj, Hemraj. And it's 905 737 8940.
Radha Krishna Kunja Vikari, Radha Krishna Kunja Vikari, Muralidhara Govardhana Dhari, Muralidhara Govardhana Dhari, Radha Krishna Kunja Vikari. Muralidhara Govardhana Dhari, Muralidhara Govardhana Dhari, Sankachakra Pitambara Dhari, Sankachakra Pitambara Dhari, Sankachakra Pitambara Dhari, Sankachakra Pitambara Dhari, Karuna Sagar Krishna Murari, Karuna Sankachakra Pitambara Dhari, Karuna Sagar Krishna Murari. Radha Krishna Kunja Vikari, Muralidhara Govardhana Dhari, Sankachakra Pitambara Dhari, Karuna Sagar Krishna Murari, Karuna Sagar Krishna Murari. Radha Krishna Kunja Vikari, Muralidhara Govardhana Dhari, Harijan Jogan Chamatimu, Adhyam Tyadire, Harijan Jogan Chamatimu, Adhyam मन मंदिर में ज्योति जगा दो, 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 गट गट बाती रे, गट गट बाती रे, गट गट बाती रे, गट गट बाती रे, दर्शन दो घनश्याम, मंदिर मंदिर मूरत तेरी, मंदिर मंदिर मूरत तेरी, मंदिर मंदिर मूरत तेरी, मंदिर मंदिर मूरत तेरी, तेरे बिन देखे सूरत तेरी, तेरे बिन देखे सूरत तेरी, युग बीते ना आई मिलन की, युग बीते ना आई मिलन की, पूर्णमासी रे, पूर्णमासी रे, पूर्णमासी जब तू खोले जब तू खोले पंचम स्वर में गूंगा बोले पंचम स्वर में गूंगा बोले अंदाज के लंगड़ा चल कर अंदाज के लंगड़ा चल कर पहुँच काशी पहुँच काशी पहुँच काशी पहुँच काशी पानी पीकर प्यास बुझाऊं मैं उनको कैसे समझाऊं मैं उनको कैसे समझाऊं पानी पीकर प्यास बुझाऊं मैं उनको कैसे समझाऊं आँख मिचोली छोड़ो अब तू आँख मिचोली छोड़ो अब तू मन के बासी मन के बासी मन के बासी मन के बासी Krishna Muralidhar Govardhan Hari Kankachakra Pitambardhari Kankachakra Pitambardhari Kankachakra Pitambardhari Karuna Sagar Krishna Murari Karuna Sagar Krishna Murari Karuna Sagar Krishna Murari Karuna Sagar Krishna Murari Krishna Murari Kedava Murari Krishna Murari Krishna Murari Krishna Murari Kedava Murari Krishna Madhava Murari Madhava Murari Madhava Murari Madhava Murari Krishna Murari Kedava Murari Krishna Murari Kedava Murari Madhava Murari Madhava Murari Krishna Murari Kedava Murari Kedava Murari Krishna Murari Krishna Murari Kedava Krishna Murari Krishna Murari Krishna Murari, Krishna Murari, Krishna Murari, Krishna Murari, Krishna Murari, Krishna Murari.
ॐ सहनाववतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यङ्करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै ॐ शान्तिः 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 ॐ पूर्णमदः पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते ॐ शान्तिः 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 श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पादं शङ्करं लोकशङ्करं शङ्करं शङ्कराचार्यं केशवं बादरायणं सूत्रभाष्यकृतौ वन्दे भगवन्तौ पुनः पुनः ईश्वरो गुरुरात्मेति मूर्तिभेदविभागिने व्योमवद्व्याप्तदेहाय दक्षिणामूर्तये नमः। वासुदेवेन्द्रयोगीन्द्रं नत्वा ज्ञानप्रदं गुरुं मुमुक्षूणां हितार्थाय तत्त्वबोधो विधीयते With reference to a wise person or a Jivan Mukta, one who is liberated while living, the method of the freedom from karma is being described. So, as I said yesterday, one way of describing freedom is freedom from the bondage of karma. Again, we said that it is not karma that binds us, it is kartatvam, the sense of doership, that binds us. And this kartatvam, sense of doership, is because of ignorance of the self, not knowing the true nature of self. I take what is not self to be the self. I take the body, which is not the self, the mind, which is not the self, I take them to be self. And therefore, the actions performed by the body, mind, I think I am performing them, and that is how a false sense of kartatva or doership arises in me. Is that sense of doership that connects me, Atma, with karma. That's how you may say that I get bound by karma. In fact, it's kartatva, the sense of doership, which is the reason why I get as though connected to karma. By the knowledge of self, I see that I am actionless, that all actions are performed in presence of me. actions are performed by the body, sense organs, mind, intellect in my presence, and therefore, even when actions are being performed, I am actionless. So that knowledge makes me free from that false sense of doership. And therefore now, the karma cannot connect to me. They never connected to me. It is sense of doership because of which I thought was connecting. Now that factor not being there, we all are free from karma. Except we think that we are bound by karma. The wise person knows he is free. And therefore the text said that he becomes free from all karma. Karma is, for the purpose of analysis, divided into three categories. One is called the sanchita karma. The karma, by karma we mean the result of karma. When you perform the action, it produces a subtle effect which fructifies at a time as karma phala. So karma is performed now. The result comes at a later time and place and condition. Some karmas give us result quickly, some karmas give us result later. So what connects the karma and the karma phala? The karma is performed now, the result comes later. So the Mimamsakas explain there is something called apurva or some subtle effect is produced which fructifies into the karma phala at a given time and place. So all those apurva or adrushta or these unseen samskaras are all stored in my mind, and when the appropriate time comes, they mature into the result of the karma phala. So sanchidam karma ananta koti janmanam, the karma that has been accumulated. Karma means that karma phala accumulated over countless births have accumulated in my account, called sanchita karma. Of that, a part has resulted into this life, that is called prarabdha karma, what we call destiny. And agami karma, the karma that is being performed now, which will give results later. So karma is karma, but then for the purpose of analysis, is divided into three categories. Sanchitam karma, the karma that has been accumulated over many parts, births, and which have now accumulated in my account to be experienced in course of time. The prarabdha karma, the karma which is given rise to this body and this life. Agami karma, karma that I perform now, which will give result later. For the wise person, all these three kinds of karma get destroyed in the wake of knowledge. So how does it happen? So look at the page number 44. The first line. Sanchitam karma brahmaiva ahamasmi iti nischaya jnanena nashyate. It's good practice to recite like this, So your tongue opens up to pronounce these, little complicated Sanskrit words. And Sanskrit language is such that by chanting, it creates a very special effect. So now the teacher says how sanchitam karma, the karma accumulated over the past countless births, how does it get destroyed? Brahmevahamasmiti, by the knowledge that I am Brahman. You know what it means? So far, I thought that I was a jiva or an individual self, which was a product of, that is the notion, product of ignorance. Now that I come to know the true nature of myself, I know that I am Brahman. Therefore, the karma performed by that ignorant self, that ignorant self is no more. My notion that I am a Jivatma, that no more remains when I know that I am Brahman. Therefore, you can say that old self, ignorant self, the notional self is no more there in the wake of the knowledge of the true nature of myself, that I am Brahman. Therefore, the karma performed by that ignorant self are no more applicable to me because that is no more there. Whoever performed the karma over all the lifetime, that ignorant self is no more there in the wake of the knowledge that I am Brahman, and therefore those karmas are not applicable to me anymore. But Swamiji, what happens to them? They get, distributed into the cosmos, you can say, but they are not anymore applicable to me. Therefore, this passage says, Sanchitam karma brahmaivahamasmiti nischaya jnanena dashyati. They give the example of dream. In dream also, sometimes we perform variety of actions. Good or bad? Once we wake up from the dream, the dreamer who performed those actions is no more there. And therefore, the waker is in no way accountable for what was done by the dreamer. So I am the waker now. I have woken up to my true nature. And therefore, that I am Brahman. And therefore the karma performed by the dream in the ignorant state are no more applicable to me. And that's how, simply by knowing my true nature, all the actions accumulated over all the past are gone because there is no one to now affected by those karmas. Therefore, Brahmayahamasmiti nischaya jnanena sanchitam karma nashyati. All the sanchita karma gets destroyed by the knowledge that I am Brahman. The next one says, Agami karmapi jnanena nashyati kincha agami karmanam nalini dalagata jalavata jnaninam sambandho nasti. What is the agami karma? The karma that the wise person or we perform now, which will give rise to result in future. So karma that we are performing now, which will give rise to result in future, is called agami. Agamanam, coming. So karma that is coming or which will give rise to result later. So wise person also lives his life and performs actions like other people. So what happens to actions that he is performing? We said actions that he accumulated in the past are all burned because of the knowledge. Whatever action he is performing now, will they not produce result? Will they not affect him? Will they not require him to take another birth to experience the result? Here, the understanding is that even though the wise person appears to be performing karma, from our standpoint, from his standpoint, he does not perform karma. This is what we have been discussing in the evenings. In the Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna says in the 5th chapter, describing wise people, it says, Neva kinchit karometi yukto manyeta tattvavit. Tattvavit, the knower of tattva, the knower of truth, manyate, knows. Neva kinchit karomi, that I do not do anything. Even while doing everything, Pashyan, Shrunvan, Sprashan, Jigran, seeing, hearing, touching, tasting, eating, drinking, walking, while doing all this karma, he says, I do not do anything. Now, who does all this? Indriyane, indriyartheshu vartante. The sense organs interact with the sense objects in my presence. So this is truth about you and I also. That Atma does not perform karma, but the karma performed by the upadhi are taken to be mine. I think I am performing karma, while a wise person knows that he does not perform the karma. And therefore, we think that he is performing karma. He is living the life, performing karma. So we ask him, what will happen to the result now? The results are not produced because he does not perform karma from his standpoint. You follow this? Wise person, so says here, Nalini dalagata jalavat, like the drop of water on a lotus leaf, on lotus petal. Like a drop of water on lotus petal does not touch the petal. And so, just as a lotus petal remains untouched, unaffected by the drop of water, so also wise person remains unaffected by the karma that is performed by this upadhi. And therefore, even though to the world he appears to be performing variety of actions, from his own standpoint he does not perform action because he has no identification with the body, mind, sense complex. And therefore, the actions which appears to be performing now, why it appears? The actions that appears to be performing now to other people, they do not produce any result for him because there is no kartrutva, there is no sense of doership. So then somebody asked, but what happens to those karma? I generally replied that they go to cosmos. But the next passage here gives an interesting explanation of what happens to the karma performed by a wise person. Read the next passage. Kincha ye jnaninam stuvante bhajante archayante tan prate jnanikritam agame punyam gacchate. So the karma that the wise person performs must go someplace. Where do they go? Says, ye jnayanam stuvanti, those people who stuvanti, who praise the wise person, archayanti, who worship the wise person, bhajanti, serve the wise person. So those who serve the wise person, praise the wise person, worship the wise person, they receive all his good karma. Tan prati jnani kritam agami punyam gacchati. You know why in India now we serve the Mahatmas? Why is it traditional to serve the sadhus or Mahatmas? Because what good they do, it goes to the people who worship them, who serve them, who praise them. Jnani kritam agami punyam gacchati. So this is the accounting of all the karma, Sanchita karma are accounted for by saying that on account of the taking place of knowledge, they are all burned, like the karma of the dreamer get burned when he wakes up. Agami karma, because he doesn't have sense of doership, therefore he doesn't get stuck to those karma. Then those karmas get distributed. The good karma that he performs, the result of that goes to all those who worship him, serve him, praise him. Sometimes a wise person might wind up doing some papa karma also, suppose. So next passage says, Ye jnaninam nindante dvishante dukkha pradhanam kurvante tan prate jnanikritam sarvam agami kriyamanam yata avacham karma papatmakam tad gacchati. But there are those who abuse. Now, you will know that in case of many of the saints and wise persons, there have always been people who somehow hate them. There are many who love them, worship them, and there are some also, for whatever reason, they just dislike them. And thus, there have always been people who have, there are always people, wise people, who have been loved by many, at the same time hated by some also. For whatever reason. So Puja Swami used to say, he just dislikes me, just by my being here. Sometimes, why does this person dislike you? Just because you are there? No reason. So for whatever reason, there are people who nindante, those who verbally abuse him, dvishanti, those who hate him, dukkha pradhanam kurvanti, give discomfort or pain to him, tan prati, towards them, jnani kritam agami kriyamanam yat avachyam karma. Avachyam means that which is papatmakam, of the nature of sin. If jnani also performs some karma which can be classified as sin, then all those results go to the people who condemn him, who abuse him, who hate him. The opposite. The punya karma of the wise person goes to all those who praise him, worship him, serve him. The papa karma of the wise person goes to those who hate him, who abuse him, who give him pain. So that is how agami karma, the accounting is done. Sanchita karma all destroyed in the wake of knowledge. Agami karma is performed. It does give rise to result and is distributed like this, which means that the wise person remains free from the effect of those results. What about prarabdham karma? That already came, by the way. See, page 43. The first line, let me read that. Prarabdham karma kimiti chet. So what is prarabdham karma? What is destiny? This is for everybody and for a wise person also. idam shariram utpadya iha loke evam sukha dukkhadi pradam yat karma tat prarabdham bhogena nashtam bhavati prarabdha karmana bhogadi avakshayah iti. We read this yesterday, but this third kind of karma, prarabdha karma, that doesn't go to anybody. That the wise person himself or herself has to experience. Sanchitam karma gets destroyed like a dreamer waking up. Agami karma does not touch him because he has no sense of doership. But prarabdha karmanam bhogadeva kshayah, the prarabdha karma, the destiny, the wise person also has to go through. Whether it's pleasant, painful, so destiny is the result of the karma performed earlier. So when wise person also was ignorant, at that time the karmas were performed, which will give rise to the result. And that way it is likely that in that time he performed some punya karma and some papa karma also. And so sukha and dukkha, pleasure and pain, both of them will come in the life of wise person also. And nobody can escape destiny. One has to go through destiny and experience the result of destiny. So you find that many saints also had to go through painful situations and all different situations in life, the result of their destiny. Meaning that prarabdha karma cannot be destroyed by any way other than experiencing them. So thus all karmas are accounted for. Sanchita karma, in wake of knowledge, like a dreamer waking up, they are gone. Agami karma do not produce result for him because he doesn't have kartrutva, sense of doership. Prarabdha karma also is not connected, but they come. Prarabdha applies to the body. So therefore the situations, circumstances come, he goes through them, and that's how when prarabdha karma is exhausted, he departs from this body. So when did the body of the wise person fall? When will it fall? When his destiny is over. Some people believe that as soon as you get knowledge, you'll be bliss out. Because now no agenda is left for the wise person. But no, that prarabdha or destiny, this body is the result of destiny. And therefore the body will be continuing its existence as long as destiny lasts. And that is good. Then we have an entity called Jivan Mukta. If there are no Jivan Mukta, no wise people, then who will give us knowledge? Who will continue this tradition? Therefore we accept Jivan Mukta, those wise persons who are liberated even while living, and that's how the tradition continues. So this is how the karmas are all accounted for. This is a description of the Jivan Mukta, the one liberated while living. Going back to page 45, the second line, तथा च आत्मवित् samsaram tirtva brahmanandam ihaiva prapnoti. Tatha and thus, Atmavit, the knower of Atma. The Vit means knower, Atmavit, the knower of Atma. Samsaram tirtva, having crossed the ocean of samsara. Brahmanandam ihaiva prapnoti, he attains Brahmananda here while he is alive. So, wise person has already crossed the ocean of samsara and gains Brahmananda, the fullness, the limitlessness, right here, because that is the nature of the self. On what basis do you say that? So, next line quotes a statement from the Upanishad. Tarti shokam atmavita iti shrutehe. Shruti, this is a statement from Chandogya Upanishad. Statement from, you heard the name of the verse on this Upanishad, Chandogya Upanishad. In that Upanishad, the sage Narada, he is called Devarshi, he is the divine sage Narada, approaches the great teacher Sanat Kumara and says to him, please teach me Brahman. So says Sanat Kumara says, you first tell me what all you know. Then I will tell you what you need to know. So then this says Narada, he describes in detail what all he knows, and he knows everything. All the Vedas and Puranas and Itihasa and Vyakaranam, every branch of knowledge, everything he knows. There is nothing that he does not know. But then Sayyid Narada says, Mantravid eva hamasmi tato atmavid, but I know only the literal meaning of all these scriptures. I do not know the purport, the purported meaning, the true meaning, which is God, which is self. So the purpose of the scriptures is to enable us to know the self. I know all the words of the scriptures, but I do not know the self. And therefore, in spite of so much knowledge, I am still grieving. Soham Bhagavat Shochami. O Lord, Venerable Sir, I, who is so knowledgeable and so well accomplished, I am grieving. Therefore, may the Lord, Venerable Sir, help me cross the ocean of grief. Bhagavan shokasya param tartan mam Bhagavan shokasya param tarayatu. That I who is grieving, O Venerable Sir, please help me to cross this ocean of grief. Sutam yetat bhadrashebhya, I heard from sages like you, tardi shokam atmavid, the knower of the self crosses the grief. So this vak here comes from Chandogya, that dialogue, of that conversation. Atmavit means what? The knower of the Atma. Shokam tarati, crosses the grief, overcomes the grief, which means that the grief that we experience in our life, call it grief, call it sorrow, call it pain, or emotional, mental pain. Physical pain is the result of destiny. But the mental pain is the result of ignorance. The sorrow that we feel, grief, any mental ailments that we experience, feel, are all the result of ignorance. And they go away. In the wake of knowledge, all that emotional pain goes away. Even for a wise person, the physical pain may not go away because that is a result of destiny. Emotional pain is a result of ignorance. So wise person doesn't have emotional pain, doesn't have sadness, doesn't have grief. But physical pain is a result of destiny, that may continue. Atmavit shokam tarati, the knower of the self crosses the grief. And therefore the wise person who has known the self now is free from all the grief. But Swamiji, I do not merely want to become free from grief or unhappiness, I want to be happy. Answer is that happiness is your nature. You do not have to acquire happiness. If happiness is my nature, how come I don't feel happy? Because this grief is what is stifling the manifestation of happiness. Just as the sun is shining, there are clouds which block the manifestation of sun. So Atma is of nature of Ananda, always shining. The cloud of grief obstructs the manifestation of Ananda, and therefore we do not experience that we are happy. So when the cloud of grief goes away, unhappiness goes away, which was a product of ignorance, in wake of knowledge, when that goes away, then Ananda is manifesting. So for the wise person, Ananda, the happiness, fullness, manifests without any obstruction. And therefore he abides in Ananda. Brahmanandam eva prapnoti. Even while he is alive, he attains Brahmanandam. What is Brahmananda? Ananda, Brahman, that is self, that is the nature of Ananda. Next question is, where does the wise person die? You see, in this Vedic tradition, death is very important. And therefore people always are concerned about how the death takes place and where the death takes place and where did the Jivatma live, Because the Bhagavad Gita says that your destiny after death is determined by the last thought that you have when you are departing from this body. When you are departing from this body, what determines your destiny? Whatever the last thought that you have. That's the reason why when a person is passing away, he repeats Narayana, 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 Sri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram. It's Bhagavan Nam, Bhagavan Nam. So that while departing, he will, if he hears anyway, when you are doing this, whether the dying person is hearing you or not, we do not know. But we hope that if he does, he passes away uttering name of God, that is when he will merge into God. That's our intention. So therefore, in this tradition, Hindu tradition or Vedic tradition, where the person dies, when the person dies, how the person dies, are all important. In the 8th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna describes which are the situations when the person dies, then you know that he will go up or not. As I said, this is just for general information. It is not death that determines where you go. Is how you lived that determines where you go. But still, so if death is considered to be an indicator of what the future destiny is going to be, then question is, where will the wise, what about the death of the wise person? Where do you think he will be dying? He says death is not important at all. So next passage says, on the page 46, the first passage, Tanum tyajatu vakasyam स्वपचश्च गृहेऽथवा ज्ञानसम्प्राप्तिसमये मुक्तोऽसौ विगताशयः इति स्मृतेश्च Tanum Chitito Akashyam, whether a wise person casts his body in Kashi, means Banaras. So, Kashi is a place where it is said that if you die, you go to heaven. Therefore, people who go to Kashi even today to ultimately give up their body or to live the last time of their life. So that is in Banaras. Some places which are made for these people who go to die there, and therefore to facilitate them that some places are available there. And this is a belief that if you give up your life in Kashi, then you go to heaven. Because it said that Lord Shiva comes. When any person dies, Lord Shiva is the presiding deity of Kashi. And he has promised that whoever will die in Kashi will be liberated. So he said will come and recite Shri Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. So Taraka mantra. This mantra, that Taraka, which helps you cross the ocean of samsara. So Lord Shiva himself comes and utters this mantra in the ears of the dying person. So dying person then departs with this mantra and therefore he is liberated. So that is the reason why people go to Kashi. Said that if you drop your body in Kashi, then Lord Shiva will come at the end and will utter this mantra and you will be liberated. So this is the belief, So this verse says, Tanum Tyajitava Akashyam. Whether a wise person gives up the body in Kashi, in Banaras, Swapachasya Gruhe Athava, or in the home or in the hut of an untouchable. Swapacha means untouchable. It means the worst place. Kashi is the most exalted place. This hutment of that untouchable is the worst place. Doesn't matter where the wise person gives the body. Whether he gives the body in Kashi, the holiest place, or in the home of an untouchable, the worst place, doesn't matter because it is not the death that determines what happens to him. He is already liberated here and therefore his death doesn't make any difference. Therefore the second line of the verse said, Jnana samprapti samaye mukta so vigatashaya iti smritehe. Jnana samprapti samaye. At the very time of gaining the knowledge, muktosam, he is liberated. So when we come to know that I am Brahman, then I am free, then you are free. Because body is not of consequence as far as bondage and liberation is concerned. It is identification of the body that creates sense of bondage. When that goes away, whether body is there or not doesn't make a difference. And so since the wise person has been liberated already at the time of the gaining of the knowledge, Vigatashaya, and therefore he has no particular place that is important where he dies. And that's how the text concludes with the description of the wise person, including the departure or death of the wise person. You see, we already described in the past, we have this gross body and then we also have a corresponding subtle body, if you remember. This body, gross body is what you see, made of flesh and blood, is by itself insentient. And what imparts sentience to the body is the subtle body which is supposed to be inside the gross body. So what keeps this body alive or sentient is the presence of the subtle body within. So what happens at the time of death? The subtle body departs from here, and therefore this gross body becomes lifeless. It's called death. The subtle body will go to take another embodiment and continue. Until this moksha happens, until then this process of taking new embodiments will continue. For the wise person now, of course, he is liberated, therefore there is no more birth. So what happens to his subtle body? Not described here, but the subtle body also does not retain its individuality. Upanishad says that the subtle body also disintegrates into its components. If you people remember what subtle body is, Pancha Jnanendriyani, Pancha Karmendriyani, Pancha Pranaha, Manascha, Buddhischa iti. The 17 elements make up what we call subtle body. This is the gross body made up of food, essence of food. Born of food, sustained by food, goes back into food. Subtle body is made of 5 organs of perception, 5 organs of action, 5 pranas, manaha the mind, buddhi the intellect. And that that is what travels from one body to other. But now for the wise person there is no travel. So what happens to subtle body? That also disintegrates. And each component then merges into its source. For example, the organ of perception, eyes, are presided over by deity sun. Therefore, the sun resides in this subtle form, in these eyes. That individual expression of sun merges into its source, the sun. The presiding deity of the organ of hearing is called quarters. They merge into them. All devatas are living in this body in their fraction. So sun lives in the eyes, a little fraction of sun lives here, a little fraction of Dik Devata lives in the ears, a fraction of Vayu lives in the touch, skin, a fraction of the Prasavi lives in the Granendriya, section of Rasanendriya, Granendriya, Rasanendriya, section of water. So this is how different devatas dwell in our body. Every Jnanendriya, the organ of perception, has a presiding deity. The organ of action has presiding deity. So all devatas are living in their parts. The part of devatas live in our body. For the wise person, all the devatas depart from here and merge into their sources. And that's how there is no more existence of this subtle body. So subtle body also disintegrates. Therefore, there is no next further birth required, and that's how the wise person was liberated while living and remains liberated while departing from his body as well. This is how the Tattvabodha text completes with the description of a Jivan Mukta or a sage who was liberated while living. And that's how the text started with proposition that we will now describe the Tattvabodha Prakaram, we will describe now the method of the discrimination of Tattva, the truth, for those who are sadhana chatusha sampanna adhikaranam, for those who acquire the fourfold qualification, for them will describe the method of the deliberation upon truth. And that's how it describes, goes all the way up to the Jivan Mukta. So in that way, Tattvabodha is a short text, but a complete text. It covers most of the basic concepts of Vedanta, like the Panchakosha, Avasthatraya, Atma Anatma Viveka, the Srishti, this creation, different devatas, all gross body, subtle body, causal body, 5 koshas, 3 bodies, all of these are discussed here. Meaning that all the basic concepts of Vedanta are discussed in the short text. Therefore, more familiar we are with this text, more familiar we become with the basic concepts of Vedanta and basic concepts of life. In fact, this one text is enough for us to be liberated. This one text in A provides us all the material required for us to contemplate and benefit from it. It is not that you require to study 100 texts or a very advanced text. A text like Tattvabodha is complete in itself. Provides us all the material required to contemplate and gain the knowledge. So that is how a very introductory text, but at the same time a complete text. And therefore one can always go back, revisit this and reflect upon that, deliberate upon that. Read the last sentence on the page 46. Iti Tattvabodha Prakaranam Samaptam. Thus ends Prakarana called Tattvabodha. This is called Prakarana Grantha or Prakriya Grantha. A grantha or a treatise that describes the prakriyas or various models, various methods which are to be found in the texts of Vedanta. Prakarana also means a chapter, So a text has number of chapters. Each chapter is also called Prakaranam. Of the whole treatise of Vedanta, this is one Prakaranam that describes one chapter which covers all basic aspects of Vedanta. So before we conclude, any questions?
Lord Shiva is there at the death of the body. Is he the only presiding deity for death?
Lord Shiva is the presiding deity of the city of Banaras, Kashi. And therefore he comes when a person is dying to utter that mantra in the ears of the dying person.
Where can I get that mantra?
This famous mantra, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. It's called Taraka mantra. Taraka means that which makes you cross the ocean of samsara. Have you heard this mantra? It's a famous one.
Yes.
Okay, so that's the one.
I don't understand. It's Lord Shiva, but yet
He talks about Rama.
Ram,
Yeah. Because Rama is his Ishta Devata.
Ishtadeva. Lord Shiva's Ishtadeva.
Lord Shiva worships Rama. And Rama worships Lord Shiva. Through means to cross. Taraka, that enables you to cross. So that which enables you to cross the ocean of samsara is Taraka. This mantra It comes from an Upanishad called the Kali Santarana Upanishad. A short Upanishad is called Kali Santarana Upanishad, in which we find this mantra, Hare Rama, Hare Rama. But the ISKCON people, that is the Bhaktivedanta Prabhupada, reversed it. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Whatever be the reason, that's what he has done. So he's called Krishna consciousness. One Mahatma explained that one reason to do that is that we should not be reciting Vedic mantras. So by reversing the order, it no more remains Vedic mantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, that is not found in Veda. What's found Hare Rama is found in Veda. So when you recite Hare Krishna, then you are not in any way violating any kind of rules of restrictions of Vedic chanting, etc. Is one explanation given.
Swamiji, most of the mantras and bhajans, they are confirming that, we are poor people and Bhagavan is all. So it's like duality always. Whereas now we are learning that we are Brahman, one. And so do we get more reaffirming like I am poor Atma when I am doing the bhajan, or even most of the mantras are Purnamada is like saying I'm Purna, but most of the mantras are like that too, where I am the Jiva Atma.
All worships takes place in duality, where the worshipper is different from the one who is worshipped. And that is accepted. It is like, as I said, pole vault. All this worship is meant, in duality, is meant to ultimately transcend the duality. So how do you deal with duality in the form of worship that helps you transcend the duality? By giving you a frame of mind where you can understand non-duality. Simply saying I am Brahman doesn't do the job. So this worship prepares the mind where that statement will do its work.
So changing my mindset.
It is transforming my mind, preparing the mind, creating the adhikaritvam, fitness of the mind.
So that's Antakarna Shuddhi.
Right. Yeah.
So as it gets clearer, as it cleans more, it becomes clearer.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And so at some point, even though we are doing this worship or the ritual, it will become a part of me in a sense.
It is part of you, but slowly you will become free from the need of the worship, ritual.
Because then I will be able to see it.
The ritual gives you purification of mind, because of which in course of time you become free from the need. Because it has to serve a purpose. When the purpose is served, then it's not needed. So you take medication as long as needed. When the health is recovered, meditation no more necessary. Medication no more necessary. When the health of mind is recovered in terms of Antakarna Shuddhi, this is no more needed. So worship in duality is meant for Antakarna Shuddhi. When that is accomplished, then it has done its job. Then you may as well do it out of pleasure. Nothing wrong in doing it. You may as well do it, but then not as a necessity, out of pleasure.
Beautiful line that I used to hear always from my father was कहते थे कि आदमी निमित्त है, काम शक्ति करा रही है, जितनी श्रद्धा शक्ति में होगी आपकी, काम का फल उतना मीठा होगा। तो आपके 2-3 दिन से जो आप लेक्चर सुने हैं, उससे बड़ा अच्छा लगा सुन के, कोई बड़ी क्लैरिफिकेशन हो गया। आदमी एक्चुअली निमित्त नहीं है, आदमी निमित्त है बिकॉज the way the two things we have combined, the Atma and the
Anatma.
right? तो वो clarify जो आपने इतना clarification हुआ उसको सुनकर, आपकी बातें सुनकर कि मैं समझ गया कि वो कहते थे आदमी निमित्त है. Now I know, understand. So it's not आदमी is limited. आदमी is limitless if he attaches himself to the concept of Atma.
Nimitta means instrument. In Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna says, Nimittamatram bhava savyasachin. Here Arjuna may become nimitta, may become an instrument in my hand. Because I am the one who does everything. You have a false pride that you are doing something. Even when you think that you are doing something, it is I who is doing it. Even when I have the notion that I am speaking, it's all done by Ishvara who is manifesting through the organ of speech and through my mind and through everything, who is functioning through this body-mind-sense complex. So this talking also is done by Ishvara through this instrument. I have a notion that I am doing it. So that says, Nimitta matram bhava, may become nimitta, may become an instrument, a tool in the hands of the Lord. Because He is doing it and you are just a tool. Like Lord has a flute, become a flute in the hands of the Lord. Allow Him to play His music through you. And the flute is completely clear, inside. There are no knots inside. There may be knots outside, no knots inside. I mean, the flute does not place any resistance to the player who wants to play the flute. So it becomes a flute called nimitta, instrument, a flute in the hands of the Lord. Let Him play His music through you. And for that you must remove all the knots from yourself. We have those knots, and so we don't allow that music to come out unhindered. We played hindrances in what the Lord wants to play. So Lord Ishvara is to play through us, but ahankara is a big knot. And then we distort His music. So good, bad, karma, what is done by only Ishvara through us. We distort the things through our own ego. So when slowly that goes away, then this becomes a fit instrument for the Ishvara. So wise people's upadhi, the body-mind sense complex of the wise person, is an ideal instrument for the Lord. Because he does not offer any resistance in the form of sense of ego. And therefore, he is a right fit instrument for the Lord to carry out His agenda. Because he has no agenda himself. Prajahati yada kama, meaning that one is free from all agenda. Therefore, he is totally in the hands of Ishvara. He becomes instrument for Ishvara's agenda to manifest through him, function through him. So in Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna says, may you become a nimitta, an instrument in the hands of the Lord. That's what you are, but recognize that. Don't think that you are doing. That's the reason why Lord Krishna showed to Arjuna. In the cosmic vision, in the 11th chapter of the Gita, Arjuna could see that how both the armies are already gone. They already entered the jaws of death of the Lord, and He has already finished them. Lord Krishna also said that, hey, I have already killed. Dronamcha, Bhishmanta, Jayadratha, Drona, Bhishma, Jayadratha, Karna, all of them are gone. Maya hatam svam, I already killed them, so you have to just take the credit, that's all. Tasmat utmautishta yasho labaswadya Arjuna, rise and get all the credit. The work is already done by me. That's how it is.
I just need to reconcile, connect the dots in my mind on, you just mentioned Ishwar is the doer of everything, but yet my understanding previously is it's organs of action that's doing, so I'm not the doer. Can you reconcile that?
Right, so the self is not the doer. The organs of action, perception are doing. But then who provides them, who enlivens them, etc.? Atma or Ishvara? When we say Ishvara is doing everything, it is said in a different context. When you say that sense organs of perception and action are doing something, is said in one context, that Atma does not do anything. When you say Ishvara is doing everything, it's in the context that Ahankara, ego, doesn't do anything. So when we have this notion that I'm doing things, that is when we are told Ishvara is doing everything. So that Ishvara is doing everything is said in the context when a person says, I'm doing things, the ego is doing things. So ego is told, you are not doing anything, Ishvara is doing. Through the sense organs of perception, action, Ishvara is functioning. Yes, sir.
Are Kriyaman and Agami, they are synonyms?
Huh? Kriyaman and Agami, yeah. They mean the same thing. Agami karma and Kriyaman karma, they mean the same. Kriyamanam grammatically means that which is being performed. Now, Agami means that which will bring result in future. So meanings are different, they are not synonyms. But they amount to the same thing. They refer to the same kind of karma.
I have one more question, and this is, Mahavakya says Holy Brahman exists. So, is Brahman and self and Atma all the same, and how do we interact with the world?
Brahman and self and Atma all is one. Right now I think they are different. Self and Atma means the same thing. So right now I think that I am different, Brahman or Ishvara is different. Therefore I am told, hey, you are Brahman. Recognize that the difference that you think is notional, is not reality. Since I have presumed that I am different from Ishvara and Ishvara is different from me, therefore I am told, you are Brahman. To remove that notion, remove that ignorance.
So it's all one.
It is, but they are taken to be true. That's called ignorance. And therefore we are told, hey, what you think is not right, in fact, Brahman and you are one.
So interacting with the world, I should see the world as Brahman as well. Everything is Brahman.
Yes, and everything ultimately is yourself.
And myself, right?
Which amounts to saying that one should treat others the way one treats oneself. If everybody is myself, then I should treat you the way I treat myself. Always love myself That's what I should do. Always try to make myself happy. That's what I should do to others, to you. No other question?
Just the other day I had a question to Swamiji, and we were like, Swamiji said to ask again for more clarification. What is the difference between man, buddhi, chit, and ahankar? Like ahankar, I know, buddhi, I know, but chit and man.
So question is, what is manaha, buddhi, chittam, ahankara? There is one antahkaranam, the inner organ, which in English is called the mind. So what is called a mind in English? We will are concluding in a few minutes. The mind performs 4 functions. Broadly. The mind broadly performs 4 functions. Therefore, these 4 are not different. They are 4 states of the mind. Manaha is also state of mind. When it is sankalpa vikalpa, see, before we make a decision, we go through pros and cons. Before we arrive at, should I go to this college or this school or that school, this job or that job, this investment, that investment, should I make chapati or paratha? So before arriving at any decision, we go through these pros and cons. What if we make chapati? Oh, every day chapati. Make what paratha? But paratha means this. So pros and cons, you go through and then arrive at the decision. No, we'll make chapati. We'll make khichdi. We'll do this. So before arriving at any firm decision, we often go through the stage of considering pros and cons. Should I take this road or that road? If 409 kahan jata hai? 410 kahan jata hai? Which way does it go? Should I take this road? In this time of the day, this kind of traffic may be there. And then you decide, I'll take 410. But before deciding that, you went through this process of pros and cons. That is called manaha. The state of the mind is called manaha. Then arrived at the decision, I will take 410. That's called buddhi, when nischaya or conviction is made. Chittam is, chit means to, chi means to collect. So when all our memories are collected, that faculty is called chittam. So chittam is the faculty of memory, by which we recollect what we experienced in the past. Ahankara is a sense of I. In our mind itself, there are 2 kinds of thoughts, subject thought and object thought. Subject thought is called ahankara, object thought are manaha, buddhi, chittam. So there are 4 functions that the mind performs, and therefore mind has these 4 aspects, 4 functions, not 4 minds are there. One mind alone gets 4 designations depending upon which function it performs. So these 4 are functional names. Like you can be called mother, somebody calls you mother, somebody calls you wife, somebody calls you grandma, somebody calls you daughter, whatever. Depending on function that you perform.
Swamiji, as it comes ahankara last, ahankara is feeling good about yourself or is an active version?
No, ahankara means sense of I, sense of individuality, the notion of I. subject.
I did it.
Ahankara in the regional language is called ego or pride. That is not what ahankara means, sense of I or sense of individuality, which arises from identification with the body mind sense complex.
So Swamiji, would buddhi be the discerning mind?
Call it discerning, deciding. Buddhi does several functions.
It's always the,
One function is to come to judgment or decision.
is it the voice of reason or not necessarily?
Yeah, reason also. So reasoning is involved in buddhi, learning is involved in the buddhi, decision is involved in the buddhi. The pros and cons of feeling also is involved in the mind, doubting also is involved in the mind, the pros and cons also are involved in the mind. So several things are involved in manaha and buddhi, chittam and ahankara. Chittam also performs various functions. So the function of thinking is performed by chittam. When you are deliberating on something, reflecting upon something.
Another thing, like we keep on thinking, like doing whatever, thoughts keep on coming in our mind. Is that considered as karma, our thoughts?
Yeah, past karma gives rise to thoughts in present.
Get any result out of it?
Hmm?
Results?
Results? No. If you do something, then only result comes, not just from thoughts.
Say something Swamiji, if something is in the mind and it's like it's bothersome and it's, and you want to, if it's in the thought level, a karma is not created, but if you act on it or speak about it, then a karma is created, am I correct?
That's called karma.
But at the thought level, it's still there because
Because thought is, you have not done the thought. In thought, there is no will involved. Thought arises on its own.
Okay, so if I act on it,
Willfully, when you do something, it's called karma.
but if it's at the thought level, it doesn't fructify. It doesn't necessarily have to fructify.
No. You should do what to do with the thought, that you should consider. Whether you should continue to have that thought, neutralize that thought, encourage that thought. So you can learn from that thought, but thought itself is not karma. What you do to that thought is karma. Thought arises, I want to go. That's all right. Then you go, that's karma.
Swamiji, is a wise man a liberated one who is liberated while living? What kind of, does he ever suffer from ego?
Not ego in terms of binding ego. In terms of functioning ego, yes. Because to function also you need a working ego. For example, an actor performs the role of a beggar on the stage. At that time, we are concluding now, Washroom? Okay, all right. ठीक है. So the actor, when he performs the role of a beggar, he has some kind of a notion that I'm a beggar. Then only he can act as a beggar. But not a binding notion. Meaning that he remembers the identity but chooses to adopt this thought that I am the beggar and perform. So that kind of working ego is there in the wise man, not a binding ego.
I was asking, I think in context with the thing that wise man knows literally everything.
No, not knows everything. Wise man also has a mind, and mind has limitations. He doesn't know everything. He doesn't know all languages, doesn't know how many grains of sand there are, how many...
So does he get offended? Let's assume he has a knowledge and he knows for sure that earth is round, and somebody comes along and said, no, it's flat. He knows it's wrong,
Hmm.
for whatever reason, because of his studies or whatever he has done. Does he get offended if somebody comes and says it's flat? How does he deal with it?
Why does he? Nobody should get offended.
Why should he get offended?
Why should you? I also get offended. He says it is flat. That is his job. I mean, his opinion.
Maybe the earth example is not good, but in daily life, for example, we know how we're going to do this, and we already know how it's resulted and all that. So if somebody comes on the contrary says, no, it has to be done this way. This is the only way you should really do that. So as a human being, being
Wise
limited,
man. Wise man.
being limited, kind of ego gets affected. Says, you know what?
Doesn't have to get affected. What he says is not right. That's all right. That doesn't mean I should be offended. Why should I be offended? He has an opinion, I have an opinion. His opinion doesn't agree with mine, that's all right.
Takes some understanding that the other person has a point of view as well.
Yeah, it's his point of view.
But you're getting down to very level of couple of you're getting to the nitty-gritty that the two opinions in the house. You have to do your way. The other
He's talking about his house experiences.
he's bringing that to the wisdom and all that. That's a conflict there.
Yeah. We don't have to. Let them have that opinion. Now then, what it means in the running of a household is what we have to come to a compromise and stuff like that. That you know better than I do, but anyway, yeah. Okay, so we'll conclude here. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutrabhashya Krutau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punah Ishvaro Gururatmeti Murti Bheda Vibhagine Yomavad Vyapta Dehaya Dakshinamurtaye Namaha. Vasudevendra Yogindram Natva Jnanapradam Gurum Mumukshunam Hitathaya Tattvabodho Vidhiyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om.